Podcasts are done. They're all tucked in, waiting to go to bed. It's Rockpile Report. After dark. Shows are done. We still have a couple things to talk about, Drew.
Well, I want to start the night with this. Okay, now I know you have a lot on your plate. You have a lot of things you want to discuss.
Most notably, I took a trip to Maine, which we're going to cover.
Guys, here's the thing. Rockpile After Dark, this is all the stuff that we talk about when the microphones turn off. We make fun of a lot of things. This isn't a typical Bill-centric podcast. It's something we do when we're here. It makes us laugh. You don't have to watch it. You don't have to listen to it. It's okay.
Yeah.
No one will be mad at you.
Do you know how much football we're going to talk about right now? Not a lot.
Not a ton. I do want to start with a little. Chris, the headline. Odell Beckham doesn't commit to a presence at OTAs.
Sounds like a man after his money.
You mean to tell me that no one wanted you? Or at least a lot of teams wanted you. Just like, I think that Antoine Staley on Twitter had the best tweet. He pointed out, because it was the quote, "Look at you."
Wow, yeah, sorry. I took a sip of the juice that we have in front of us.
Gotcha. Because you're not a neat whiskey drinker. I love it. So
I'll tell you why I made that face in a minute.
This is what I love after dark. So he tweeted out, he was like, oh, the quote of Odell Beckham Jr. saying, well, they showed me, I signed with the Baltimore Ravens because they showed me so much love. They showed me so, and he was like, here's the love that they showed him. And it was just a guy diving into a pool full of money. Like, that's it. That's why you're here. So imagine you paid a guy that no one else was willing to pay the salary you gave him. And then he flat out says, like, well, I might be there. I might not be. I'm going to talk to my coaches. I'm going to talk to whatever.
Don't know who their quarterback's going to be.
Well, so imagine that you as a franchise said, hey, we will sign Odell Beckham as a sign to our franchise quarterback, hopefully, that we want him and we want him to come back to the fold, sign the deal that we're making you, or at least sign your franchise tag. Like, at least let this whole thing play out. Let's make a deal. We're willing to work with you. We're actually trying this time. We brought in a real offensive coordinator. We're doing all the things. And then that guy goes, yeah, I'm going to be here when it feels right for me. Like, when I feel like getting out of bed. He's literally Allen Iverson going, practice? We're talking about practice? And here's your quarterback going, this is the guy. This is the guy you brought me? Chris, this has clown show written all over it to me. Just as an outsider looking at this happening. It's one of the more laughable things I've watched happen. All the Bills fans who clamored for Odell Beckham Jr., do I think that he still could provide value in the NFL? Of course. Do I think that he's worth, what did they say? It's like $11 million guaranteed, up to $18 million it could be worth? That's, Chris, I don't know if you have the drop. It doesn't matter if you do. That idea, what is it worth?
I'd have to find it.
No, it doesn't matter. That idea ain't worth a velvet painting of a whale and a dolphin getting it on. Like, that's it. This is ridiculous. Good for them. Don't you almost feel better that Odell Beckham went to a team like the Ravens, where it's almost like the best case scenario for every AFC contender? It's like, oh, if he went to the Chiefs, I'd be worried.
Yeah.
If he went to the Bengals,
he went to like a faux contender.
Or, well, if he went to Jacksonville, I'd go, oh, fuck. All right, well, that's the thing we're going to have to deal with. They have a creative offensive coordinator. Instead, he went to a place where they have mismanaged and underutilized every single wide receiver. Who's the last Baltimore wide receiver worth a shit?
Steve Smith.
Okay. After him.
Don't know. Mark Andrews. Now we're going into tight end range.
My favorite is, you said Steve Smith. He wasn't even drafted by Baltimore.
Nah, made his bones in Carolina.
It's pathetic. And you know what? If they want to do that, good for them. Guys, these are the conversations we have. Like, I'm not going to nice this up. We get a bunch of liquor in us. We talk about football. We talk about life. We tell our stories. This is what After Dark is all about.
Here it is. This is something that I picked up when I went. Where did I get this? I got this in Massachusetts. Bondstone bourbon whiskey cask strength. Hold it up to the camera. I think we should only put this out on YouTube.
Yeah.
How about that? Yeah. So there it is. Bondstone cask strength. Drew, would you like to guess at the percentage of alcohol by volume?
Is that what I have in my glass?
That is what you have in your, I believe it is called a Glencairn.
Whew, it made me shiver. And I drink whiskey neat all the time. I'm willing to bet she's a stiff mistress. What do you got there?
Do you have a guess at the alcohol by volume, the percentage?
I'd say
the percentage.
The percentage? I was going to say proof. I guess it's got to be around 110.
It is higher than that. This is 61.4% alcohol by volume.
Jesus Christ! What is this, lighter fluid? Good Lord, I'm glad I didn't sip it yet.
It could be.
Yeah, it could be.
Take a sip of it. That's why earlier when you saw me sip it, and I was like, I like had a cough behind it. Yeah, how do you like that?
Gasoline.
Yeah. So we have after dark
Good
gasoline.
God.
So yeah, I made a trip up to Maine because that is where my girlfriend's brother lives, and him and his girlfriend had a baby in September. So by now the baby is 6 months old. So based on my work schedule and being able to only call off one day, we made a trip up for Easter, and we drove from Buffalo to Maine. It was like 10 and a half hours. We started the trip Wednesday at like noon. I think we left by like 1 because I got off of work at 7 a.m. So I needed a 4-hour sleep because Jessica and I were going to be the ones driving, and it was us, her son Benton, and her mother. We went out.
I still love the fact that the four of you, like the worst odd couple ever, carpooled all the way out there.
Yeah, so we set out at 1 o'clock. So our goal was to get to somewhere in Massachusetts, post up for the night, and then Thursday morning take a stop somewhere in like Portland, Maine. Take a look at the Atlantic Ocean because Benton he's 8. He's never seen that. So let's take Benny to the Atlantic Ocean. We stopped in Shrewsbury, Massachusetts for the night because that was the town that had a Total Wine where I picked up this Bondstone cask strength bourbon whiskey that we are generously sipping on as we do this.
Say generously. I put that thing off to the left. It is lighter fluid.
We went to the first thing we did when we got to Shrewsbury.
I'm impressed that you just took another hit of that.
It's delicious. The first stop that we made was we got to get some food. So we went to this place called, I think it was called like Jimmy's Grill and Tavern. And I put the photo in the group chat that we have.
Yeah.
They have on their menu bone-in chicken wings.
If you
bone-in chicken wings.
First of all, if you ever try to describe anything, like if I sit down and I'm like, hey, let me look at the chicken section, and I see bone-in chicken wings, I assume you don't know what the fuck a chicken is. I'm not eating any of that.
Yeah, I was irritated by it because bone-in chicken wings. Yeah, chicken wings.
Just called a wing.
Chicken wings have the bone in them. If there's no bone in them, it's called a chicken tendy.
Well, what I have to reason then is, what do you savages in this area of the country think are wings? That they have to specify that there's a bone in this one. Chris?
What do you
Again, you're a better man than me. See, this is why I don't travel.
What do you think?
I get militant in a restaurant and start yelling at everyone.
What do you think they think of when they see a flat? Oh, 2 bones. Ooh.
Like
what do we do
here?
here?
A caveman saw fire, they were like, well, shit, we don't know what to do with this.
Yeah, and then after dinner, we made our way over to Total Wine, where I spent $240 on bourbon at Total Wine. So I have the one that we're drinking now, and I think 5 others out in the basement area. But
it is an impressive selection.
We didn't have... There wasn't like too much to go into Total Wine. They had a bunch of shit that you can't get at your Premier, your Quarterly Yours, or your Colonial, where I'll go to get bourbon in Buffalo. I mean, that's for me. I'm at the point like when I'm taking a road trip, like, oh, we're going on a road trip. I am gonna bring $200 to $300 specifically to buy bourbon that I know I cannot get here in Buffalo. Then we went and checked in at the Days Inn in Shrewsbury.
Okay, hang on. Whoa. You stayed at a Days Inn?
It's all we need is 8 hours of sleep. That's it.
Okay, well, hang on. I'll say this. I've been known to stay in some real shitholes because I don't care. If I'm by myself, if I have my wife or, God forbid, my children with me, yes, I want a nice establishment. If I'm alone, the same group chat you mentioned earlier, I think earlier today, I said flat out that if I ever were to be on a public bus, be it a city bus, be it a Greyhound, whatever it is, that's just a sign that I've actually packed it in, and I'm just embracing the whole, like, I'm a drifter now. That's what I'm doing. I'm doing that with my life because there is no way you could get me onto the... This is the same conversation. It's like, you're staying in one of these hotels, like, you're a borderline drifter. You're teetering on the edge of maybe housing struggles. Like, I don't know.
Oh yeah, we're gonna cover that in a minute, but it starts.
No, but the text you sent me.
Yeah, well, it starts with getting the room. So the selection is made. Days Inn, we're staying here. So we find the address online. It's like $100 for the night, according to the internet. You know, that might change a few dollars when you walk in because, you know, you don't already have a reservation with Days Inn. So we get to Days Inn and we get to the front desk, and this guy had to been, like, I saw him from, there was a point where he came out from behind the counter and I could see the full length. He was all of about 5'5", and he was wearing like a deep white V-neck tee, and he was trying to make it seem like Days Inn was a high-end place from the jump, which is that could never be a thing.
Can I read the text?
You can, yeah, you can pull it up, but I'll kind of give it a little synopsis of what happened.
Okay.
So we get to Days Inn and we go to check in. We're going to need 2 rooms, one for myself and Jessica, and then one for her son and her mom, who are staying in the same room. Now, as far as like room locations, we got stuck with one of the worst rooms you can get. We were first floor next to the, I don't know, I guess the atrium where everybody checks in, where you have your continental breakfast. We're like the first room. So in the morning, we're getting all that talk. We could hear it, and we get woken up by it. You got the text?
Oh, I have it. The dickhead at the Days Inn explained the pricing last night to us as if we might not have been able to afford it. I almost bought a room for myself right there and just not use it to insert my financial dominance. I love that you use the word insert instead of assert, like Ricky from Trailer Park Boys.
Yeah, that's how we do things.
Here's what I know, Chris. I have a story about exactly what you were just describing. That feeling there of like somebody who clearly doesn't understand that I have my shit together is trying to like talk me through the way this works. I go, listen, buddy, you're a budget hotel. Don't quote me your pricing. I've got it. Here's what I'll tell you. Are you familiar with Dave K?
Yeah.
Okay. So Dave K, Bob K, we're all out at a bar. Dave K is a wild card, people. He is one of the best life coaches. He's the guy that I owe. He's the guy that I owe most of my life's success to, which is fucking wild to say out loud because he is a train wreck.
Also a guy that was in your wedding, left your wedding, and then showed up at the end in street clothes. Left
my wedding as we were walking down the aisle. He didn't come back down the aisle. He escaped down not a fire escape, but a back stairwell to the patio and then cut through the restaurant because he knew that he and I had the conversation. I go, listen, I've watched Wedding Crashers too many times. If you get hammered and make a scene at my wedding, I will punch you out in front of everyone and I'll feel good about it. And he took that to heart somehow out of all the things he doesn't give a shit about. And it was a great moment for not just mine and his friendship, but also one of those things where I go, this guy is literally capable of anything. So, Chris, we're at the bar, and we're at this shithole bar.
Name?
It used to be called Rockers. It's now the Rusty Buffalo.
Okay.
Right on Union.
Yeah.
He gives him her card, and she's swiping it, and it's declined. And he's like, he's hammered, but he's like, you're doing something wrong. She swipes it again. And she's like, maybe you just don't have any money. And so he pulls out his wallet and he pays for all of his drinks in cash. Now we go to the Garden View, which is what, a quarter mile down the road?
Yep.
It's a 24-hour diner. We get in there. Now Dave is hammered, but he still feels like he has a point to make. So what Dave does is he orders every single item on the breakfast menu. He runs a $115 tab and then buys all of the candy. Chris, you know when you walk into a diner and you see they have all the blow pops in that thing and they're like, 25 cents for charity.
I'm picturing from the movie Can't Hardly Wait, the guy that at the end of the movie just puts the 25-cent gumball machine in his trench coat and then walks out of the diner. That's what I'm picturing.
He tells the waitress, he goes, go get me all of those suckers and put them on my tab. And then he pays it. And he's hammered. He's not eating any of this. He's just ordering it because he's mad that she insinuated he didn't have any money. When in reality, her card reader was broken because after he did it, no one's card ran through. None of our cards ran. So we all had to pay cash. But it was a dump, so we were only there for 2 or 3 drinks. He was pissed, so he spent $115 at a diner. And then I go to, as was the custom, I go to drop him and my friend Bob off at their house. And he's getting out of the car, and there's all these boxes. He literally made the staff box up all the food that he ordered. He's like, I'm not eating that. Box it up. And they boxed it up and put it in my car. That's how much of it there was. And then I go to drop him off, and he looks at me and he goes, I don't want that shit. and just drunkenly stumbles into the house. He spent $115 to prove a point. I profited because I was eating pancakes at my kitchen table at 3 o'clock in the morning. But you were about to do the same thing. You and Dave K are the same person.
Well,
on a certain level.
This is kind of what happened is, so we're all standing there. We're getting 2 rooms. So the guy goes into his spiel of like the security deposit, how much the room is. And what pissed me off is that he did it and then he did it again because we're getting 2 rooms. So it was like the same spiel that we just got, same context. And I was like, we're going to need a 3rd room.
Give me the spiel a 3rd time.
Give me a 3rd room. I need a 3rd room because I need to show you our financial dominance. My girlfriend probably makes 3 times what you make, and I probably make double what you make.
I love how you're an elitist asshole about this, but also, you're not wrong. I don't like being condescended by people who are wearing a white t-shirt.
Well, let's...
like anywhere. If you're just wearing a plain white tee, you don't get to talk down to me. I'm sorry.
Let's get to the... getting to the room now. So, like I had said earlier, we're first floor, first room next to, the atrium where everybody gets to have breakfast, come in. We're the first, we're the first room. So, like, we're, like, getting, and Jessica's mom and her son were in the next room next to us. So, we have the... what is it? The bell cart? I mean, it's days in. You're doing this yourself. So we had the
bell cart?
Yeah, the bell cart.
I'm shocked they have one.
Yeah. Well, guess what? I had to get it from underneath the stairs. So I
There's dust on it. They're like, well, no.
Yeah.
The guy at the front desk who's working the day shift is like, I haven't seen that in years.
Yeah. So I go out to the car and I get all of our shit for the 2 rooms. And I remember I was wheeling back in, and somebody across the hall, I don't know if they had like a Instacart, right? That's where you can order groceries. But they had
I don't know. I don't do that shit.
Neither do I. I'm a man. I'll just go get it myself. I don't need to impose a peasant.
I don't get delivery food because I don't trust someone else touching
go pick
my
it up
food before I see it.
So somebody across the hall from mine and Jessica's room, they opened the door, and I'm only saying this because this came from Jessica's mouth. It looked like they clearly lived there. They had Sprite and apple juice like delivered, and then the guy just like, because I wasn't in the picture, so this guy just assumes it's like, oh, there's this woman checking into the hotel with her son. Let me try to get an in. Here's a free Sprite and apple juice for your son. We immediately threw that stuff away. And like Jessica looked into the guy's room, and she told me, she's like, the guy clearly looked like he lived there. So,
I just want to point out that you stayed, like, this is the Greyhound bus of hotels, and you literally were just...
It is, yeah.
And so I just want to ask the question. Whose call was this?
Jessica's. I was driving at that point. I said, look up a hotel. I mean, I don't mind staying at a Days Inn. We didn't know that it was that bad of an area where across the hall someone was going to be living in the room.
There are no good Days Inn. There are no... You know who stayed in an Econo Lodge recently?
You?
Me and Potter. Me and Potter shared twin beds in one room in an Econo Lodge like a year ago, last summer, saying goodbye to our friend Nate. And do you know what happened out in front of that place? There was heavy construction. Did I or did I not drive through just like a corridor of like, what do they call those? Like traffic control barrels with the flashing lights on them?
Yeah.
Potter's like, I watched you hit that thing and you didn't even try to avoid it. No, I didn't. Why? because we're in the middle of nowhere and it's an Econo Lodge. It literally doesn't matter. There's things going on in this hotel we don't want to know about. The fact that our room is clean and well lit and freshly painted, that's a win. I'll take that.
So this happened we're like I said, first room next to the entrance, the atrium, where you're having your continental breakfast. I got woken up at 5 o'clock in the morning by somebody outside who sounded like Apollo Creed after the match with Drago. You couldn't understand him at all. Like, it sounded like he was in the room with us. He sounded like he came from Rocky IV. And I think he woke myself and Jessica up.
This is why you don't stay in budget hotels when you have a... Chris, you want to turn around to me for a second? I want to bring it in here. What have you learned from this experience? First of all, what did they have at the Continental Breakfast?
Oh, I didn't even look. We went to like...
He's like, I couldn't even look at it. We just ran out the door.
You know what it is this is what happened. I kind of hyped Benton up the night before because I was like, oh, you probably get like... Now, mind you, this is his first road trip, and it's like he's...
So his first road trip, and you took him to a Days Inn?
So, well, no, this...
Oh.
His first...
You're lucky you didn't get gunshots. Jesus.
I know. This is... Okay, so... But I, like, overhyped him because I have stayed at a Motel 8 before.
You thought it was cool?
No, I was just... It was just me. But when I woke up and I went to the Motel 8 Continental Breakfast, they had a waffle maker. I could make a waffle. So I hyped him up. Like, oh, probably Continental Breakfast, you have a waffle machine, you can make your own waffles. And he literally had his jaw drop to the floor. And apparently we didn't have that. So I overhyped. I guess a Motel 8
2 weeks ago,
is
I went
better than a Days Inn.
2 weeks ago, I went to a Hampton Inn for a wedding. I'm in southern Maryland, just outside the Chesapeake. And they had a waffle iron.
Yeah, it's a Hampton Inn. It should.
Yeah. You guys sit at the Days Inn. You thought they would have a waffle iron?
Yeah. Well, if I've stayed at a Motel 8 before that had a waffle iron, I would assume Days Inn could at least afford it. But
they couldn't afford the guy at the front desk a shirt. And you thought you were getting a waffle iron?
He did. The guy at the front desk did give us some spiel, but like, oh yeah, and I'm trying to make a 2-star hotel feel like a 5-star hotel.
Yeah.
No, you're not. Put clothes on.
No, you're not. Put a real shirt on, dickhead.
So,
oh my God,
I like how we're like almost to a half hour here, and we're at one night of
your life on a road trip.
So the only other thing of note was. So staying in Shrewsbury, Massachusetts, getting up the next morning, we had plans. We're just going to stop in Portland, Maine. We're going to look at the Atlantic Ocean. Benny's never been in that state, and he has no idea what the ocean looks like.
I'm starting to see Benny as Charlie from Always Sunny, where it's just like he's never left Philly. So they're just like, no matter where you take him, he'll be amazed by everything.
Let me get to this.
Oh,
so
boy.
we've said this to Benton before because doesn't take rocket appliances to figure this out that Jessica is not with the father of Benton. So they get together on FaceTime to talk to each other. Now, Benton, being born in, I think, 2015, is his birth year, July 2015. We have said to him on multiple occasions, whether he's on the phone with his dad, on the phone with Nana, on the phone with Grandpa, on the phone, with whoever, and we just go, hey, Benny, all right, that's it. Hang up the phone. He doesn't understand the term hang up the phone until we were at our cabin that we stayed at in Maine, which had a landline, and I got to physically show Benton what hang up the phone means because they had a landline. I picked it up and it had a dial tone. Benny's never seen anything like it. He doesn't know what this is. And I'm like, oh, no, hang up the phone. And he's like, oh, that's where that comes from. I'm like, yeah, put the phone back down on the receiver. That's hang up the phone. That's what that means.
Chris, it sounds like you and your de facto family here had a cultural revelation this week.
Oh, yeah, it was fun.
And in fact, in many ways, it might have narrowed the gap on just like where we live to where this kid is going to come from, which for you will do wonders, maybe. Probably not. Because
we'll see.
We'll see. But it's hilarious to picture the two of you. Just like I said, buddy cop filming your way through this whole debacle. First of all, Days In, terrible lobster shack, pinball of all things. I love that, like, this is us just talking about our lives. Also some hilarious football topics, but like Odell Beckham Jr.
Yeah, just one.
His name was on the lips of every Bills fan everywhere, and now how laughable is it the way this whole thing unraveled? Oh, he's going to go back to L.A. He wants to go here. He wants to go play for a contender. Baltimore. And oh, by the way, I'm not showing up. And then you hit me with my de facto stepson. I had to teach him pinball and dial tones. This is fucking...
Yeah, he never understood why we'd always say hang up the phone. What does that mean? What do you mean? I'll just press end.
I love your idea about this show because it's gonna be a vehicle for all of the other shit that we can't talk about during the podcast.
Yeah, plus this can only be available on YouTube.
Absolutely.
How about that? Yeah, only available on YouTube.
I love that we're doing it. I love that this is going on, but for today, we gotta get the hell out of here. I'm Drew Gear. That's Chris Kruger, and this is Rockpile After Dark.